The gleaming silver ships emerged from the clouds, their massive forms casting long shadows over Seoul's Olympic Stadium. The smooth metal surfaces caught the morning sunlight, creating dazzling patterns that made the gathered crowd shield their eyes. People packed the stadium to capacity, their excited chatter filling the air with a nervous energy. Ambassador Lee Hanna stood straight-backed on the diplomatic platform, her heart pounding beneath her carefully composed exterior. The moment humanity had waited for was finally here. First contact. Real, official first contact with the Galactic Council. Her hands gripped the railing as the ship's landing gear extended with a soft wire, touching down on the precisely marked landing zones with impossible grace. "They certainly know how to make an entrance," muttered Chief Counselor Kita beside her, adjusting his formal robes for the 10th time in as many minutes. Despite his attempt at humor, Hanna could hear the tension in his voice. This meeting would shape humanity's future among the stars. The ship's entry hatches opened with a soft hiss of equalizing pressure. The crowd's excited murmuring turned to gasps of wonder as the alien delegates emerged. They were beautiful in an otherworldly way. Tall, crystalline beings whose translucent bodies caught and refracted the sunlight like living prisms. Their movements were fluid, almost dance-like, as they descended the boarding ramps. Earth's welcoming committee stood ready, a carefully chosen mix of political leaders, military officials, and cultural representatives. The aliens had specifically requested a demonstration of Earth's military capabilities, but the committee had decided to begin with something more diplomatic, a showcase of traditional Korean archery. Master Archer Park Jin took his position on the demonstration field, his traditional hanbok flowing in the gentle breeze. At 65 years old, he was a living legend in archery circles, having trained champions for decades. His weathered hands moved with practiced grace as he nocked his first arrow. The alien delegates watched with what seemed like polite interest as Park Jin demonstrated the ancient Korean bow. His form was perfect, each shot finding its mark with unfailing accuracy. The wooden arrows whistled through the air, striking targets at increasing distances with deadly precision. But something was wrong. Hanna noticed it first. The slight shifting of the aliens' crystalline forms, the way their bodies seemed to ripple with what their cultural briefings had identified as amusement. Their translator devices picked up fragments of their conversations. Primitive projectiles, string-powered weapons, prehistoric technology. Hanna's face burned with indignation. These beings, with their advanced technology and interstellar ships, were actually laughing at one of Earth's most refined martial arts. She glanced at Kita, seeing her own anger reflected in his carefully neutral expression. In the spectator stands, another figure watched the demonstration with growing frustration. Kim Suji gripped the railing of her seat so hard her knuckles turned white. As South Korea's current compound bow champion and Olympic gold medalist, she understood better than most the true power and sophistication of modern archery. The alien's dismissive attitude made her fingers itch to show them what a compound bow could really do. Suji's mind raced through the capabilities of her competition bow, the precision-engineered cams, the carbon fiber limbs, the advanced materials that made it more sophisticated than any traditional bow, while maintaining the same elegant principles. These aliens thought archery was primitive. They hadn't seen anything yet. The demonstration continued, but the damage was done. The aliens' condescension was clear in every gesture, every translated whisper. They viewed Earth's display as quaint at best, treating it like a historical reenactment rather than a demonstration of real skill. As the aliens filed off to their next scheduled event, discussing among themselves what they viewed as humanity's charming but backward ways, Suji made a decision. She would find a way to show these beings the true power of human ingenuity. They had dismissed Earth's archery without understanding its evolution, without seeing how humans had taken the simple concept of bow and arrow and engineered it into something extraordinary. The first contact was not going as planned, but it wasn't over yet. In the stands, Suji began forming a plan. The aliens wanted to see Earth's military capabilities. She would show them something they never expected, something that would make them rethink their dismissal of humanity's so-called primitive weapons. Their condescension would soon turn to respect, or perhaps even fear, when they discovered just what a human archer could do with modern technology and ancient skill combined. 2 days after the first contact, the United Nations chamber buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from every Earth nation filled the historic hall, their usual seats now shared with alien delegates from across the galaxy. The chamber had been modified to accommodate the various atmospheric needs of the visiting species, creating strange patches of colored air where environmental fields maintained different conditions. The coordinator stood at the podium, his crystalline form catching the light from the chamber's great windows. His translator device hummed softly as he addressed the assembled delegates. "We have observed your world's military capabilities with great interest," he said, his translated voice carrying a hint of what humans would call smugness. "Now we propose a challenge." The chamber fell silent as the coordinator explained the rules. Each civilization would present their most advanced ranged weapon technology in a controlled demonstration. The event would serve as both a military assessment and a cultural exchange. The underlying message was clear. This was a chance for the Galactic Council to properly categorize Earth's level of advancement. Defense Minister Song Min-ho sat at Korea's designated section, his mind racing with possibilities. The other nations were already discussing their options. America wanted to showcase their latest railgun technology. Russia had their plasma prototype, and China hinted at something involving quantum particles. But Min-ho's eyes kept drifting to the observer gallery, where Kim Soo-jae sat quietly watching the proceedings. Soo-jae had arrived early that morning, dressed in her Olympic team jacket. She hadn't said much, but her presence was no accident. After the aliens' dismissal of traditional archery, she had requested permission to observe the council's meetings. Min-ho had pulled some strings to get her in, sensing she might prove useful. The coordinator continued his speech, describing the elaborate testing facility that had been prepared outside Geneva. "Each species will have one representative to demonstrate their chosen weapon," he explained. "The trials will test accuracy, power, adaptability, and tactical advantages." Various alien delegates began discussing their choices. A reptilian species boasted about their neutron disruptors. Another group, looking like sophisticated collections of geometric shapes, mentioned something about gravity manipulation weapons. Each description seemed more advanced than the last. Min-ho watched as Suji's expression remained calm, almost serene. She had brought a tablet with her, and he could see her reviewing technical specifications of her competition bow. The minister's mind flashed back to her Olympic performance last year. The impossible shots, the perfect accuracy, the way she had revolutionized several archery techniques. The chamber's attention turned to Earth's representatives as nations began declaring their choices for the demonstration. The UN Security Council members were pushing for a joint demonstration of their most advanced military hardware. The debate grew heated as countries argued over which technology would best represent humanity's capabilities. Min-ho felt a strange calm settle over him as the pieces fell into place in his mind. The aliens expected Earth to try to match their energy weapons and advanced technology. They were waiting to judge humanity's attempts to copy their level of advancement. But what if Earth showed them something completely different? Something that combined ancient wisdom with modern engineering in a way their technology-focused minds might never have considered. When the time came for final nominations, Minister Song Min-ho stood. The chamber quieted, curious about South Korea's choice. They expected him to propose some advanced military technology. Instead, he smiled and said clearly, "Earth chooses Kim Soo-jae, Compound Bowmaster." The chamber erupted in alien laughter. Their crystalline forms shimmered with amusement, some even producing chiming sounds that their translators didn't bother to convert. The coordinator's form rippled with what seemed to be both amusement and confusion. "Perhaps there is some mistake in translation," the coordinator suggested, his words tinged with condescension. "We are asking for advanced range weapon technology, not Historical demonstrations. Min-ho stood his ground. There is no mistake. We nominate Kim Soo-ji and her compound bow as Earth's representative. He gestured to where Soo-ji sat in the gallery. She stood gracefully, her Olympic medal glinting at her neck, her expression confident and composed despite the continuing alien laughter. The other Earth representatives looked shocked, some angry, others embarrassed. But Min-ho saw a few thoughtful expressions among the military experts. They knew what he knew, that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most elegant, and that humanity's greatest strength was not in copying others' technology, but in perfecting their own path. The chamber's laughter began to die down as Soo-ji walked to the main floor, her steps measured and confident. She carried herself with the poise of an Olympic champion, completely unbothered by the alien's reaction. As she reached the center of the chamber, she bowed respectfully to the coordinator, then spoke in a clear, strong voice that silenced the remaining chuckles. "I accept the nomination," she said simply, "and I look forward to showing you exactly what a compound bow can do." The morning air at the Geneva testing facility crackled with energy as alien weapons lit up the sky. Representative Han Do-yoon stood at the observation platform, his hand gripping the railing as he watched another demonstration of devastating power. The smell of ozone filled the air, mixed with strange chemical scents from the various alien weapons. A tall insectoid species had just finished their display, their energy rifle turning solid steel targets into molten puddles. Before that, a race of floating orbs had demonstrated particle beams that carved clean holes through mountain rock. Each demonstration seemed more impressive than the last, drawing appreciative murmurs from the gathered alien delegates. In the preparation area, Kim Soo-ji sat quietly on a bench, her compound bow laid across her lap. Her fingers moved with practiced precision, checking each component of her weapon. The carbon fiber limbs gleamed under the morning sun, and the aircraft-grade aluminum riser felt cool and familiar in her hands. While other competitors calibrated power cells and adjusted plasma containment fields, Soo-ji simply waxed her bowstring. "Your primitive weapon doesn't make you nervous?" asked a passing alien delegate, its crystalline form shifting with what seemed like genuine curiosity. "The others are using weapons that can vaporize small moons." Soo-ji looked up and smiled politely. "This bow is anything but primitive," she replied, running her fingers along the perfectly engineered cam system. She had spent years perfecting her setup, working with engineers to optimize every component. This particular bow had helped her win Olympic gold, and now it would show the galaxy what human ingenuity really meant. The testing field was scared from previous demonstrations. Craters dotted the ground where particle beams had struck, and several target areas still glowed with residual energy. The air shimmered with heat distortion, and the occasional crack of displaced air echoed across the field as various weapons continued their displays. Do-yoon watched another alien step up, this one a being of pure energy contained within a sophisticated mechanical suit. Its weapon looked like it had been grown, rather than built, organic curves housing what appeared to be captured stellar plasma. When it fired, the beam cut through the air with a sound like tearing reality, leaving afterimages in everyone's vision. Next, the coordinator's voice rang out, carrying a note of barely contained amusement. "Earth's Archer." The pause before Archer was deliberate, drawing scattered laughter from the alien audience. Soo-ji stood calmly, slipping on her finger tab and arm guard with practiced ease. She wore her Olympic jacket, the Korean flag prominent on the back, walking to the demonstration area with the same confidence she'd shown in countless competitions. The difference was that instead of other human archers, she now faced an audience of advanced alien species who thought her weapon belonged in a museum. The testing area in front of her was extensive, with targets at various ranges and environmental conditions. Force fields could simulate different atmospheric pressures and gravities, while holographic obstacles provided moving challenges. It had been designed to test the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. No one had expected it to test a bow. "Before I shoot," Soo-ji announced, her voice clear and strong. "Let me explain what you're about to witness." She held up her compound bow, letting the morning sun catch its surfaces. The weapon was beautiful in its simplicity, every part serving a precise purpose. The alien delegates shifted in their observation areas, some moving their environmental fields closer to get a better look. Even those who had laughed earlier seemed curious about this human who showed such confidence in the face of their overwhelming technological superiority. "This weapon," Suji continued, "represents thousands of years of human engineering and refinement. While you took the path of energy manipulation and particle physics, we perfected the art of mechanical advantage and kinetic energy transfer." She drew the bow smoothly, the cams rotating with precision as the draw weight dropped at full draw. The coordinator's crystalline form shifted, showing what might have been confusion. "You mean to say you have not improved upon this basic design with energy enhancements or gravity manipulation?" Sujai smiled, the same smile she wore before making a particularly challenging shot. "We improved it in our own way. Sometimes the oldest principles are the best. We just had to perfect them." She reached for her quiver, selecting an arrow that looked deceptively simple but contained aerospace-grade materials and engineering that would impress even the alien weapons designers, if they bothered to look closely enough. The morning sun caught the Korean flag on her jacket as she prepared to show the galaxy exactly what human ingenuity could achieve. The morning sun cast long shadows across the testing field as Suji held up her compound bow. The weapon caught the light, its carbon fiber limbs and aluminum riser gleaming. The alien delegates leaned forward in their observation pods, their various sensory organs focused on this puzzling human weapon that contained no power cells or energy matrices. "This weapon," Suji began, her voice clear and confident, "represents the perfect marriage of physics and engineering." She ran her fingers along the bow's curves, drawing attention to each component. "What you see here is the result of thousands of years of human innovation, refined to mechanical perfection." Professor Kang Ji-won stood at his monitoring station, watching the aliens' reactions through multiple feeds. Their sensors, calibrated to detect energy weapons and power signatures, showed nothing but background readings from Suji's bow. The crystalline delegates shifted in confusion, their translucent forms rippling with uncertainty. "Let me show you how it works," Suji continued, pointing to the round cams at the bow's tips. "These wheels are not just simple pulleys. They're shaped with precise mathematical curves that change the mechanical advantage as the bow is drawn." She demonstrated a slow draw, letting everyone see how the cams rotated. The alien delegates' translators worked overtime as they discussed among themselves. Their confusion was evident. They had expected Earth to attempt to copy their energy weapon designs, not present something so fundamentally different. "Notice," Suji said, holding the bow at full draw, "how the draw weight decreases at full draw while storing the maximum energy. This is not magic or advanced technology. It's applied physics." She released the bowstring slowly, controlling the movement to show the cam's rotation in reverse. Professor Kang checked his readings again. The aliens' confusion was growing into genuine interest. Their sensors, designed to detect the most sophisticated energy weapons in the galaxy, were completely blind to this mechanical marvel. Some delegates had begun taking their own measurements, their devices spinning and whirring as they tried to understand this unfamiliar technology. "Our ancestors," Suju explained, selecting an arrow from her quiver, "watched the way tree branches stored and released energy. They understood this natural principle and improved upon it." She held up the arrow, its carbon fiber shaft and precisely engineered broadhead catching the light. Every component has been refined through centuries of experience and decades of modern material science. The coordinator moved closer, his crystalline form refracting sunlight in complex patterns. "You claim this weapon requires no power source?" he asked, his translator conveying genuine curiosity. "The only power source," Suji replied, drawing the bow again, "is the archer's own strength, multiplied by mechanical advantage. The energy is stored in the limbs and released through the arrow. pure physics, no electronics or energy cells needed. Professor Kang noticed the alien delegates' attitudes shifting. Their dismissive postures had changed to more attentive stances. Some were actively scanning the bow's mechanical systems, trying to understand how such a simple principle could be engineered to such precision. The cams, Suji continued, pointing out the intricate wheel system, are shaped using advanced calculus and computer modeling. The strain is made of material stronger than steel for its weight. The riser is aircraft-grade aluminum, and the limbs are carbon fiber composites used in spacecraft. She drew the bow again, this time holding it steady while alien sensors scanned the stored energy in the limbs. What you're seeing is stored mechanical energy, about 70 pounds of draw weight converted through the cam system. When released, this energy transfers to the arrow with over 90% efficiency. The aliens' translators buzzed with technical discussions. Their initial amusement had transformed into engineering curiosity. They had expected to see humans copying their technology, not presenting something that worked on completely different principles. Professor Kang smiled as he watched the data streams. The alien sensors were now focused on understanding the bow's mechanical systems, trying to comprehend how such precise control could be achieved without computer assistance or power sources. This weapon, Suji concluded, represents humanity's approach to innovation. We don't just create new technologies, we perfect existing principles. She held the bow up one more time, letting the morning sun highlight its curves and angles. Every part of this bow, from the string serving to the cam timing, represents generations of refinement and engineering precision. The testing field had fallen silent. The aliens who had laughed earlier now watched with intense focus. They had come expecting to see primitive technology, but instead found themselves confronted with engineering principles their energy-focused development had never explored. The morning air hung still over the testing field as Suji knocked her first arrow. The alien delegates watched from their observation pods, their earlier amusement replaced by curious attention. The target stood at 300 meters, a distance that had drawn scoffs when she requested it. The arrow rested perfectly on the rest as Suji drew back the bowstring. Her breathing slowed, muscles working in perfect harmony from years of training. Without a word, she released. The arrow cut through the air in complete silence. No energy signature, no flash of light, just pure kinetic force. Thwack. The arrow struck dead center of the target, burying itself deep into the reinforced material. The alien sensors burst into activity, trying to understand how they had missed tracking the projectile. Their devices, calibrated for energy weapons and plasma bursts, had detected nothing until impact. Captain Yun Taho leaned forward in the military observation post, watching the aliens' reactions through high-powered optics. Their crystalline forms shifted with what he recognized as agitation. They had expected a primitive demonstration. Instead, they were witnessing something their advanced technology couldn't even track. "For my second shot," Suji announced, reaching for another arrow, "I will demonstrate precision through moving obstacles." The testing field hummed as holographic barriers sprang to life, creating a shifting maze between her and the target. The aliens' murmuring grew louder. This was a test designed for their guided energy weapons, not mechanical projectiles. The barriers moved in random patterns, their positions unpredictable even to advanced targeting computers. Suji didn't hesitate. The arrow flew from her bow, threading through gaps that existed for mere fractions of a second. The aliens' translators crackled with exclamations as the arrow found its mark, splitting her first arrow down the middle. Captain Yoon checked his readings. The alien sensors were going haywire, trying to calculate how a simple mechanical weapon could achieve such precision without computer guidance or energy signatures. Their confusion was becoming obvious in their agitated movements. "The third demonstration," Suji said, selecting a special arrow with a broadhead tip, "will show penetrating power." She pointed to a target made of various materials, including some provided by the alien delegates themselves. The broadhead arrow looked deceptively simple, But Yoon knew it contained advanced materials developed by Earth's best engineers. The aliens had provided materials they claimed were impervious to primitive weapons. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Suji's third shot screamed through the air with deadly purpose. The broadhead tip, spinning at incredible speed, struck the target with devastating force. It punched through each layer, including the alien materials, before embedding itself in the backstop. The testing field fell silent. The aliens' translators had stopped their constant chatter. Their sensors, still trying to track the arrows, displayed nothing but impact data. No energy signature to detect. No electronics to jam. Just pure, refined mechanical perfection. Suji smiled slightly, reaching for another arrow. This one looked different, its tip gleaming with a special coating developed in secret by Earth's scientists. "Now," she announced, her voice carrying across the silent field, "let me show you what this can do against your energy shields." The aliens' murmuring stopped abruptly. Their crystalline forms froze in what could only be described as shock. Energy shields were their ultimate defense, the pinnacle of their protective technology. The idea that a simple arrow could challenge them seemed impossible. But Sujai had saved her best demonstration for last. The arrow she held represented humanity's greatest achievement, the perfect blend of ancient wisdom and modern science. Its tip was designed to do what the aliens thought impossible: penetrate an energy shield through purely mechanical means. Captain Yoon watched as the coordinator himself moved forward, his translator crackling with interest. The aliens had stopped laughing. Now they waited, their sensors ready, their attention fully focused on this human archer who had already defied their expectations. The morning sun caught the Korean flag on Suji's jacket as she prepared for her final shot. The testing field hummed as energy shields sprang to life around the target. The aliens' most advanced defensive technology stood ready to face a weapon they had dismissed as primitive just hours before. Suji drew back her bow one last time, the arrow's special tip glinting in the sunlight. The entire field held its breath, waiting to see what would happen when ancient principles met advanced alien technology. The moment of truth had arrived. The council chamber hummed with tense energy as General Park Min-sung stood at the podium. The morning's archery demonstration had shaken the alien delegates, and now they waited nervously for Earth's military analysis. Large screens displayed detailed data from the testing field, showing arrow trajectories and impact results. Distinguished members of the council, Min-sung began, his voice steady and confident. What you witnessed today was not just a sporting demonstration. It was proof of a fundamental weakness in current galactic military technology. He gestured to the first set of data, showing an arrow passing through an energy shield. The alien delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Their translators buzzed with worried discussions as Min-sung brought up detailed analysis of their shield technology. The coordinator's crystalline form had lost some of its usual brilliance, dulled by concern. "Your defensive systems," Min-sung continued, pointing to the technical readouts, "are masterpieces of energy manipulation. They can stop plasma bolts, particle beams, and even concentrated gravity weapons. But they share one critical weakness." He paused, letting the tension build. "They completely ignore simple physical projectiles." Sujai stood at the side of the stage, her bow in hand. At Min-sung's signal, she stepped forward with a case of specialized arrows. Each one represented months of research and development, combining ancient archery principles with cutting-edge material science. "These arrows," Min-sung explained, holding up one with a distinctive tip, "travel too slowly to trigger energy shield responses, but fast enough to deliver devastating impact. Your defenses, quite simply, don't recognize them as weapons until it's too late." The coordinator moved forward, his translator crackling. "Surely such primitive projectiles cannot penetrate our most advanced armors." His voice carried less certainty than before. Suji answered by selecting an arrow with an aerospace-grade tip. The target, a panel of the alien's most advanced armor material, stood ready. Her arrow flew true, punching through the supposedly impenetrable material with a sharp crack that echoed through the chamber. As you can see, Min Sung continued, we've developed various specialized arrows. He opened a case revealing an array of different arrowheads. This one contains an EMP device that activates on impact, disrupting electronic systems without being detected by energy sensors. This one splits into multiple projectiles mid-flight. This one. The alien delegates' translators were working overtime as they discussed the implications. Their entire defensive doctrine was based on energy weapon protection. The idea that humans had developed a way to bypass these defenses using simple mechanical principles had thrown their military assumptions into chaos. Sujid demonstrated each arrow type, her shots precise and devastating. An EMP arrow shut down a test drone without triggering its defensive systems. A multi-warhead arrow split perfectly, hitting multiple targets. Each demonstration further proved humanity's ability to combine simple concepts with advanced engineering. But most concerning for your military planners, Min Sung said, bringing up new data, is the bow's complete sensor invisibility. No energy signature, no electronic emissions, nothing to detect until physical impact. He showed sensor readings from the morning's demonstration, blank screens until the moment of arrow strike. The coordinator's form had definitely paled, his crystalline structure losing more of its shine. The implications were clear. Their advanced civilizations had developed incredible technology, but had completely overlooked simple physical principles that humans had spent millennia perfecting. We've developed materials, Min Sung continued, that make the arrows nearly invisible to most scanning systems. Combined with the bow's natural stealth properties, we have a weapon that's virtually undetectable until it strikes. Sujai stepped forward again, this time with an arrow that looked deceptively simple. This arrow, she explained, contains no electronics, no energy sources, no detectable components at all. Yet it can penetrate any known energy shield and most physical armors. The chamber fell silent as she demonstrated, the arrow passing through multiple layers of alien defensive systems before striking its target with devastating force. The quiet thunk of impact seemed to echo in the stunned silence. Your civilizations, Min Sung concluded, have created amazing energy-based technologies, but in doing so, you've forgotten the simple physical principles that humans never stopped perfecting. The compound bow represents not just a weapon, but a completely different approach to military technology. The alien delegates were now openly discussing emergency military reassessments. Their translators conveyed fragments of worried conversations about defensive reconfigurations and new threat analyses. The coordinator stood silent, his pale crystalline form reflecting the gravity of the situation. A soft chime echoed through the United Nations chamber as the Galactic Council's final assessment materialized on the central display. The room, packed with representatives from every Earth nation, fell silent. After a week of intense deliberation, the aliens had reached their verdict on humanity's technological status. Ambassador Lee Hanna stood at the podium, her posture calm, but her heart racing as she began to read the glowing text. The document started with formal diplomatic language, but its meaning was clear. Earth would no longer be classified as a developing civilization. The Council had officially recognized humanity as a technologically innovative species. The compound bow, once dismissed as primitive, now carried a new designation: Sophisticated Mechanical Weapon System. The assessment included pages of technical analysis, with particular attention to humanity's ability to perfect and advance seemingly simple concepts into elegant solutions. In the audience, Suji sat quietly, wearing her Olympic jacket. The past week had transformed her from a sports champion into a symbol of human ingenuity. The aliens had requested multiple demonstrations, each time bringing new sensors and experts to study the bow's capabilities. Each time, they left more impressed. The human approach to technology, the assessment read, demonstrates unique problem-solving methodology. While other species pursue increasing energy outputs and computational complexity, Humans have shown remarkable ability to refine and perfect fundamental physical principles. Hannah smiled as she continued reading. The Council's words carried a hint of embarrassment at their initial dismissal of Earth's capabilities. Their assessment noted that humanity's parallel technological development path offered insights that the galactic community had overlooked. In various training centers around the world, archery was experiencing a renaissance. The sport that had once been seen as traditional or recreational was now recognized as a crucial part of human military and technological development. New research programs combined ancient archery wisdom with cutting-edge material science. Sujai left the UN ceremony early, driving to the Olympic Training Center where it had all begun. The familiar smell of wood and leather greeted her as she entered the archery range. Here, away from the diplomatic spotlight, she could focus on the pure art of archery again. The range had changed subtly. New sensors, both human and alien, lined the walls, studying every shot. Engineering students worked alongside traditional archery masters, combining centuries of knowledge with modern innovation. On one bench, a prototype arrow shaft gleamed with new metamaterials developed from alien technical exchanges. Suji took her position, drawing her bow with the same fluid motion she'd used thousands of times before. The familiar tension in the string, the perfect balance of the bow. These things hadn't changed, but now she understood them as more than just athletic tools. They were humanity's unique contribution to galactic technology. The arrow flew true, splitting the air with characteristic silence. As it struck the target's center, Sujai remembered the aliens' faces when they first realized their sensors couldn't track her shots. That moment had changed humanity's place in the galaxy forever. A new plaque hung on the wall, installed that morning. Its simple words captured the magnitude of what had happened. To the warrior who taught the stars that humanity's old ways still had new tricks. Sujai read it and smiled, remembering the coordinator's crystalline form, paling as he realized the implications of her demonstrations. Later that evening, as she packed up her bow, Suji noticed a group of young archers watching her from the doorway. Their eyes held new understanding. They weren't just learning a sport anymore, but participating in humanity's unique approach to innovation. The sun set over the training center as Sujai hummed her bow in its familiar place. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new developments, new ways to combine ancient wisdom with modern science. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not by copying others' technology, but by perfecting their own path. As she left the range, Suja glanced back at her bow one last time. The simple curve of its limbs, the precision of its cams, the strength of its string. These things had changed humanity's future. Sometimes, she thought, the oldest principles were still the best. Humans had just needed to perfect them.